What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to give my final Ghostface predictions, talk about who I think they're going to be. Very excited, and to be honest with you, I've changed my mind just a little. Now, to make this clear, because I understand, maybe a first-time viewer or whatever, you may say, well, Alex, the reveal or the killers, whatever, they're already online. Well, if you didn't know, I have not checked a single Scream comment. I've really tried to stay away, and to this day, right now, sitting here, just a few days before the movie comes out, I don't know who it is, multiple of them, however many. I'm not in the know, and so I'm doing this just purely out of speculation. So let's do this. We've talked about actually these two characters individually, but I'm ready to say that I officially think it's them. One of them, I'm sticking with the guy that I've thought it was for an extremely long time, and that's Ethan. Okay, Jack Champion's character of Ethan, I do believe it's him. Now, my other character that I thought it was going to be is Henry Czerny's character that was Sam's therapist. That's who I was running with, but I'd like to make a formal change considering this is my official final prediction. I think I'm going to go with Detective Bailey. I'm going to write it on stone, etch it in stone, whatever the sayings are. I'll do whatever you want me to do, but I'm laying that down that I do think it is him. So let's explain a little bit why. Maybe we can even kind of walk ourselves into the motive. Well, one thing I do want to say, and this is probably going to come up because I want to do a couple more final predictions, talk about who I think is going to die and live. That'll probably be tomorrow. But a lot of those early previews, and while I don't really overthink their opinions, these are people that got to see the movie early. I'm not saying they're paid off or anything, but these are people that have to play nice, otherwise they're kicked out of Hollywood's little party. So for me, I don't look too much in, oh, the movie's phenomenal or the movie's so bad. I just kind of avoid it. But one thing you can take is the factual things that they, say in the movie that are actually, present. And one of them is those twists, right? So there was a lot of talk about those twists. And in fact, I did see one, I think it was from somebody in Spain, I want to say, and they had said the twists are at the end. So there's a couple ending twists that, and then you can kind of retroactively go back, right, to the people that saw the movie on Friday, and they say, not really. Some of them, actually probably more than not that I saw, weren't really a fan of those twists. So, okay, does that play into who dies? Does that play into the motive? Does that play into the killers? I think not necessarily the killers. I think that, the twist that maybe people don't love, which I can't wait to see because I want to give my thoughts on it, that could, in my opinion, I lean towards deaths. I say there's a controversial ending of the movie Death that people aren't going to be so happy with. So that's what I'll say for now. We'll expand upon it tomorrow, probably in that video. So I think Ethan and Detective Bailey. All right, now Ethan, I'm really going to just stick with all the things that I've said about him I'm probably going to re-say a couple of things I said about both these characters. Ethan strikes me as odd, right? He's in some scenes, then he's not. And if you really start to think about it, okay, and we've talked about this a little bit, so the Anika thing, that's a big part of the movie, or at least it's a big part that they've shown. So actually, there was a new TV spot the day I'm recording this, maybe the day you guys see this. Ghostface is lifting her up in that apartment and swinging her, over. So we're starting to see how Anika is going to get injured before the actual ladder scene, right? She's going to take some hits. She literally looks like she's getting lifted off the ground by Ghostface. It's going to get pretty real. But my point is, we've seen some of these things. So we've seen Anika, we've seen Quinn, right, Liana Liberato's character, but we haven't seen her die. We have seen her room, which then has a lot of blood in it, seemingly afterwards. So you can maybe speculate, but you can't say for sure. But one character, and another reason, I guess, Danny even. So Danny's not on my suspect list. I think Danny probably will be the Derek, because I do just think we haven't seen enough of him to even make him seem too suspicious. I think he may be more suspicious in the film, but right now we just haven't seen a lot of him. So I think he may make it to the end and then probably die. With Jack Champion's character of Ethan, it's roughly the same. We've seen him very little, and so little that I'm led to believe, and this is why it's a prediction of mine, I'm led to believe he survives, at least, for the majority of the movie. Now, does that mean he has to be Ghostface? No, he could be like a Danny. He could make it to the end, maybe protecting Tara or whatever, and then he dies. I'll say, because at the end of the day, somebody has to be Ghostface. So if you have Danny make it to the end, if you have Ethan make it to the end, you got to start to eliminate some of these characters. But the biggest thing probably for Ethan, and we've talked about it before, is his non-response to that Ghostface call, right? That iconic scene, well, iconic in a way, I suppose, iconic scene in the trailer where they're standing there and the phone rings and everybody has a reaction, right? Including Chad. Chad doesn't look, but he does respond. And then Ethan's just sitting there, kind of head down, almost like in his hands, and he doesn't even flinch. He doesn't even look, right? So, okay, did he know that there was going to be a phone call coming? So I do think it's him. And honestly, it being him may be somewhat aligned with Mickey, right? That younger blood. And so talking about Detective Bailey, I think you can make an argument for Ethan if you want to say that they're going to try to copycat Scream 2, right? Scream 2 and Scream 6 are so aligned. You got the older one, the mentor in a way, and then you have this like young, naive kid who's maybe doing it for his own, which is really kind of what was happening, right? So Mickey, he had his own play, and then Debbie Salt was like, well, I'll tell you what's going to go on, and part of my plan was to just take you out. And so I think it could honestly be very similar. Maybe they're copying it, maybe they're not, where Ethan is the young, gullible, you can get him to do what Detective Bailey wants him to do, but he also kind of has free will and is able to do things on his own, right? So that's part of the Ethan thing. Then we go to Detective Bailey. So the reason I've switched, and I want to explain this because he was probably third on my suspect list, right? Henry Czerny's character was always, I would say, maybe even suspect number one. He may just be in like one or two scenes. He may not actually die. He may not have like any kind of consequential role, let's say, in this film. I'm going to be really interested to see what they do with him. I'm kind of going to let him slide. Now, that could be me dropping my guard to then have it be him, right? So I guess I want to think of him, but I don't want to say he's going to be Ghostface. Detective Bailey, I want to lean into the experience. I really want to believe I'm something different. There's never been someone, another one like me. I want to believe that's him. Now, technically, I could have this thought. I can maybe be right with these characters, that maybe that's Ethan on the phone. You know what I mean? Because we'll know later on who was on the phone in these conversations. It could be Ethan, but I think just the idea that this Ghostface killer looks like they have experience. They look like they know what they're doing. Why in God's name is the shrine even set up? But it's clear this Ghostface knows what they're doing. Does Ethan know what he's doing? I mean, maybe he's got a plan. Maybe he knows history so he could do the shrine, right? Like that could come from him. But the idea of this Ghostface killer being like the most ruthless, the most unforgiving, all this stuff, it seems like it's Detective Bailey. The way they dodge the shotgun, the way they take the shotgun from that store clerk, right? Like, this is somebody who looks like they have hand-to-hand experience. This looks like somebody who's like in the force, right? Like, it leans so much towards him. And, I just said a few days ago, we made a Detective Bailey video on this channel, and I had leaned into that, but I didn't want to go all the way because I do think, I think it's going to go back and forth, right? In the movie, it may go so far back and forth where it's like, man, it really makes sense for it to be you or Kirby. And there's no way it's Kirby, at least in my opinion right now. So it's like, okay, somebody who's got experience, somebody who's able to do these hand-to-hand things, somebody who'd be able to pull this stuff off. It's clearly you. That doesn't mean it is him. That's a red herring if I've ever seen one, right? But I do want to lean towards that because I also think the apprentice and the mentor thing could be copycatting in a way Scream 2. Not like the movie knows, but like the filmmakers, like they would know, right? So I think having somebody older, and this time more experienced. Like Debbie Salt, older, she was planning everything from the back. In a way, it would be similar, right? But it would also be a little bit different because Detective Bailey is right there. He's he's in a lot of these TV spots. If you notice, here's another thing I want to throw out. If you look at who's being interviewed, now I don't know how much you want to read into it. I'll read into it quite a bit. He's being interviewed a lot. You got the core four. You got Courtney Cox doing stuff. You got Kirby going, here and there as well. And then you got him. You got Dermot Mulroney. He's everywhere. He's appearing in all these interviews. So why him? Why not Anika? Why not Devin Dakota? Or any of these characters? I think we know the reason why. No, one final thing I'd like to throw in, and maybe this has to do with the motive, maybe it doesn't. So he seems to be, I don't know if we've ever had an outright confirmation, but because of the names, he seems to be the father of Liana Liberato's character of Quinn. It's always made Quinn kind of suspect, right? Would he kill his own daughter I mean, that's such a big thing. Maybe there's like another killer, so maybe there's 3 killers in the movie and they kill his daughter. I mean, I like the idea of like a Ghostface killer that's trying to like eliminate all almost like evil in the world or all loose ends, where it's like, let's just get rid of these survivors. It always goes back to them. Let's eliminate them so we can kind of have peace, right? So we can kind of like stop all this. I like that idea. Now, how does that connect to his daughter? Maybe somebody's like playing a joke and playing a joke as in somebody who's not like a real ghost face, but they are a murderer, right? They kill his daughter. He flips out. But to play that off in the movie, that would be like the first time they've ever done anything remotely like that, right? Because you'd basically be saying he starts the movie as fine, right? He's like an officer of the law and all this stuff. His daughter dies and he cracks. And then he becomes Ghostface like midway through the movie. So anything before that would be Ethan doing it on his own. You know what I mean? I mean, I think it could work, but it would just be very, very different than ever before. You look at all the movies, when you start the film, when you hit play, the killers are already in place. They already know why they're there, what they're doing, what the plan is. You know what I mean? Everything's set in motion. This would be very different because it would start with a Ghostface copycat or Ethan doing his own thing, you know, whatever. And then Detective Bailey would kind of like snap, you know, a third of the way in the movie and he'd become Ghostface. It's definitely weird, and I wouldn't even guarantee or promise that it would work. You know, I'll see if it happens. I'll see if I like it on Thursday. But I do think it's a possibility. But I don't know how that would necessarily work. So motive-wise, I really don't know. I think I gotta lean right now with my only, you know, instinctual prediction that I've had for months and months now. Maybe it is something where it's trying to like clear out everything. Let's kind of restart. Maybe like in his own mind, he would stop killing after these people. Like he just wants to clear the board and then they're done. That way he'll stop and then no other Ghostface can ever come. Now the Sidney thing hurts that, right? Because Sidney not being there, well, you wouldn't be, and that you could play that into the movie though, right? You're trying to clear everybody out. Sidney isn't there because Nev's not there. So you have to say, well, I tried to kill Sidney, but I failed. So my plan wasn't 100% successful, but I want to make it like 95% successful. Maybe it's something like that. That's the only thing I got right now. And I think it's hard to know, you know, unless you know for sure the killers, we can't possibly 100% know the reasoning why they're doing it. But those would be my final predictions. As I said, boy, I'm not looking at the comments of this video. So let me know what you think in the comments, whether, you know the spoilers or you don't. If you don't, I implore you, leave your comment. Don't look at anybody else's comment and get the heck out. And I would say do that with anybody's Scream content at this point because it's too dangerous. So there you go. Tomorrow, I'll probably talk about who's going to die and when, my final predictions. And then Thursday's the big show. I'll be seeing it. I'll have a review at night on Thursday. But we'll talk about that a little bit over the next couple days. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.